This is the Ultimate Advisor Podcast, the podcast for financial advisors who want to create a thriving, successful, and scalable practice. Each week, we'll uncover the ways that you can improve your referrals, your team, your marketing, and your business operations, helping you to level up your advising practice, bring in more assets, and create the advising practice that you've dreamed of. You'll be joined by our hosts, Brian Sweet, who is moving fast towards $1 billion in assets under management, Brittany Anderson, the driving force for advisors looking to improve their operations and company culture, and Dre Redfern, who can help you systematize and automate your practice's marketing to effortlessly attract new clients. So, what do you say? Let's jump into another amazing episode of the Ultimate Advisor Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Advisor Podcast. I have with me today two special ladies who are going to share a massive amount of value and bring their talent to the table today. So I have with me Elyse Stoner and Angela York. They each have over 3 decades worth of supporting business owners in their marketing, in their strategy, and in really helping them cultivate opportunities in their business. So Elyse and Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Brittany. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It is my great pleasure to host both of you. Now we're gonna cut to the chase here, and then we'll back in a little bit more on your journey and kind of what got you to this point. But to pique the curiosity of our listeners, talk a little bit about how you two have come together and what you're now bringing to the advisor community.
I'll start. I have been in the advisor community for a long time, since almost the beginning of my career, late 90s. I was in-house for an advisory firm and decided in 2008 to consult in the space in the areas of marketing and events. And when the pandemic hit, everything changed. Advisors had questions. How do we implement our marketing? How do we do our events? And at that time, Elyse and I had been introduced by a mutual friend and vendor in the space, and she really focused on the strategy, event strategy, and strategic marketing, which we never really had in that advisor space. And listening to all the questions you should ask when planning and really taking events so it has a worth and a value really came into focus during the pandemic when everyone hit pause and was really looking at what they needed to do with their marketing plans, their virtual events, all of that. And we started working together on projects, and fast forward, we have developed strategic marketing plans for advisors for the last few years, focusing on our ideal clients, and really, as we like to say, flipping marketing on its head in the advisor community is how we came together.
Elyse, anything you would add to that there?
It's a great opportunity to work with someone like Angela, who brings so much experience and knowledge for the world of the financial advisor. I don't have that. And I come at it from a very unique and fresh side of things. My career, as you talk about those many decades, and I watch them pile up and it makes me sweat a little bit. I came from the sports and entertainment world, where it was how we were brought up, right? About who's that person that's going to be sitting in that seat for that football game? Who's that person that's going to be sitting in that seat for that particular concert? You don't talk the same way. You don't use the messaging the same way when you're trying to fill seats for a rodeo versus, an Andre Bocelli. It's so that combined with Angela's experience, we can kind of bring that together and go, okay, our dear advisor friends, who are you really trying to talk to? And it appears to me that nobody's really had that conversation in the advisor space. So just being able to come together and help people with these years of knowledge, I mean, that's to me, that's why we do it. We've got all this stuff in our heads, and we want to be able to help people not be so confused and puzzled by marketing.
Marketing as a whole can be, what do they like to say? It's like the sexy thing in the room, but the super overwhelming thing in the room. We have one of our partners here at Ultimate Advisor Coaching is Dre Redfern. So our audience is very familiar with Dre. He's helped a lot of advisors. And I would say that right aligned with what you're talking about, one of the biggest struggles up front is advisors getting really crystal clear on who it is they're trying to serve and the lives that they're trying to change, the value that they're set to add. So one thing that I thought was interesting as I was going through your more in-depth bios and really looking at the core of how you two are serving your advisor audience is and I believe this is in Angela's, but it talks about how you use a strategic lens to identify advisors' actual ideal client. So elaborate on that a little bit on what that means and what that looks like.
Well, it sounds like, and Angela can certainly fill in the spaces, this whole idea of ideal client, and I use air quotes, it's not new in the advisor space. And people have been talking about it for years. But what we've discovered in the work that we're doing together is when we ask a new client, who is your ideal client? We get usually a pretty vague, they're a business owner, they're 5 years from retirement, like a very vague idea of who that ideal client is. What we are able to do through our experience and methodologies, back in the lab, is really getting to know more about that ideal client to really hone in. Because to say business owner, I'm a business owner, Angela's a business owner, Dre's a business owner, Brian's a business owner. We may have a lot of things in common, but I'm going to guess we have a lot of things that are very different, and our needs are very different. And we're really excited that advisors are really beginning to understand the fact that it's okay to niche down. It's okay to really understand who that ideal client is. And in that statement, oftentimes it's not who the advisor really thinks that it is.
Yeah, I can definitely see that kind of journey, right? And I think a lot of times what happens is and I think this is where some of the strategy that both of you bring to the table comes into play. And I don't want to speak for you on this, but I just think about in our brief interactions, a lot of times the advisor doesn't know what they don't know. And how they're best set to serve and who they're best set to serve, they may just not have been asked the right questions. I think about a lot of advisors in our community. They have coaches or consultants or, marketing experts or people that they'll consult with over the years, but they just haven't had it drawn out of them quite right. So I would be curious to know from each of your perspectives, when you think about the work that you've done with advisors, what is the biggest opportunity being left on the table that you've witnessed as maybe a certain cadence or a continual effect in the work that you've done?
I laugh on that because it's always follow-up. I know we were talking about ideal client, and there is a strategy to really honing in on your ideal client, and it's not necessarily who you think it is. And we say that because the advisor may say, oh, my clients are retirees. But when you really break down the data of how that client came to them, they came to them when they were in their 40s or 50s or sending a child to college or buying a home. So that's why we say it's not who they think it is. And then fast forward to what are they leaving on the table? It's connecting with those ideal clients in their follow-up. Their follow-up on their meetings, their follow-up on their events, their follow-up on really any marketing or touch points that they're doing. What we've seen time and time again is there's a lot of work that goes into the meeting planning, the event. And I don't know if it's human nature or just the way everyone has been trained. When you shut the door and take the tablecloths off and that's it, back to business, I have 50 emails I have to go check. And the follow-up is left on the table. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the connections happen. That's where the trust is built for the clients and the prospects to really feel a connection with the advisor, put more assets under management, to bring an account to them, That's where the magic is. And when follow-up doesn't take place, then it's a lost opportunity and, honestly, a waste of marketing dollars.
I think there's so much to be said there. And Elyse, is there anything that you wanted to add to before I spin this a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So Angela's gonna laugh because I am usually the follow-up queen. Like that's to me, like that's the big deal. The other thing I've discovered is actually the front end, which is the unique selling point of the advisor. People don't spend the time really understanding what makes them different and unique from the advisor downstairs, down the street, around the corner, and aren't trained, right? They are stepping forward going, I have this product, I have this tech, I have this, but really what's going to build the relationship in that niche with that ideal client is who you are as a human. So we spend a fair amount of time with our advisors learning about them. Like, what did you do before you became an advisor? Like, what is that? There's usually something there. And like, why did you become an advisor? And what's your favorite part about being an advisor? What do you do when you're not advising? What are your hobbies? And how can you use all of those to find those people that not only you want to connect with, but they need you? We've heard these statistics recently of like how much money is out in the marketplace and how few people, I want to say, was it less than 25%, I think was the statistic we heard at Jolt a couple of weeks ago. Less than 25% of people actually have a financial plan. That's 75% of the population who has money that doesn't have a plan. There's enough for everybody. So figure out who you are and who you want to connect with and what value as a human being you bring to those other human beings and take it from there.
I can't help but think about, I think about our strategy and within any of our businesses, we've got multiple different businesses and different kind of facets and industries. But the one commonality that we really try to focus on when we're creating marketing plans or any sort of communication in general is what problem are we solving for? So I think that's where, in my opinion, you get advisors. We've worked with hundreds of advisors over the years and had the opportunity to kind of peek behind the curtain at what they have structured. And I think sometimes people get stuck. It's almost like that step where they've identified their avatar. They might get to that point where they know who they serve. They know maybe some of the value, but they get lost in the articulation of it, where they're so focused on talking about who they are and what they do that they forget to solve the problem on the other end. So do you have any commentaries around that or how an advisor might be able to avoid that trap of getting stuck?
So again, as small business owners, put ourselves in that same place, right? How are we helping advisors solve their problem? And we spend a lot of time thinking about that as like the hero's journey and what does that client really, what are they trying to solve? And I think you're right. It's so much about, it's almost taking it one step further. Like, here's the problem, here's the solution, but you're not really showing them the pathway and building that know, like, trust to help people get there.
No, I was just going to comment the know, like, trust. Yes. I hope everybody, and we've heard this a lot lately. So know, like, trust. I want to pull that out and push on that button for a minute because that is something that people need to remember as they're crafting anything. So keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I think again, it's right. Again, it's for those who are on the podcast. I'm a pan talker, so I apologize. Right. You've got your problem. You've got the person who's providing that solution. But like if I was an octopus, I would have one hand with one problem and 7 tentacles with different providers who could provide that solution. It's finding the right connection. It's finding the love connection, right? Like, and how are you going to do that and share that? And there are people out there who are going to say yes.
Angela, anything you would add to that?
I would. One thing we like to tell our advisors is, they get caught up in the day-to-day and the business, working on the business and in the business. And we often tell them when they're asking about how do I connect with the client, how do I look at my business end goal, which usually is to increase AUM, not lose AUM, have the generations stay in-house. But we always will tell them, put yourself in the client's shoes, putting their money, their life savings, their children in your hands and your expertise. Look at it from a family member's hat. Pretend you're a family member, you're a human being, you're empathetic, you're in their court, so that you're not, it doesn't seem salesy. And a lot of advisors, this is just natural for them. They have that caring, empathetic mannerism and bedside manner where they don't have to worry about it. So they build that no like. But if an advisor is struggling on how do I bridge the gap to really bring it full circle between the problem and the solution, putting yourself in the client's shoes, and what would I want from an advisor and a partner and a new family member? Many clients of advisors we speak to. So I think that's a very important piece for an advisor to consider, is really be personable, who you are, and be a friend, and the rest will all follow.
Hey, Brittany here, stopping and pausing for a moment to talk about something that we've had so many of you inquire about, and that is our Ultimate Advisor Mastermind. Now, I'm going to start by saying, if you are not a growth-minded individual, if you are not somebody who's focused on taking your business to the next level, if you're not focused on engaging your team and helping them to help you in turn level up the business, the service model, how you provide that wow experience to clients, if those things are not your focus, just fast forward right now, because the Ultimate Advisor Mastermind would not then be for you. However, if you are looking to take your business to the next level, if you want to experience exponential growth and feel supported along the way, if you want to start working smarter and not harder, if you want to help your team members to work within the God-given talents that they were provided and use those skill sets in a way they haven't yet to help support you in your business, to help them realize their biggest goals, their biggest dreams. If you want creative approaches to marketing, I know that can be an intimidating word, but we're not talking here about the fancy Facebook stuff or, the latest and greatest, but rather looking at how you can market what you do, how you can express how you're different, and how you can truly differentiate yourselves in a crowded market space. If those are problems you're looking to solve, then you absolutely want to go check out ultimateadvisormastermind.com to learn more about how we can help you on your path and journey to growth. And I have to pivot this because I believe you have a certain skill set in the event space as well. So I know a lot of advisors that have, we'll just go two separate ends of the spectrum. They're either absolutely killing it with events and how they're drawing up prospects and how they're getting introduced and in front of people, or they're on the polar end of the spectrum and they're going, I have to basically beg and bribe. That's not true. Like, please, compliance wise, like, don't take that literally. People to come to their events, and it's frustrating and it's lackluster and they feel like they're hitting their head against a wall. So can you talk a little bit about maybe an effective framework for an event to be able to help grow your business and increase your reach?
Absolutely. It all boils down to the ideal client that we were speaking about a few minutes ago. You need to know your ideal client and their preferences, their likes, their interests, and you build the event around that. Then you can determine who you should invite to that event. Because how many times have you been in an event or a wedding? So when you know the ideal client and you know the event personality, it helps you dictate the location. Are people coming from work? Are they coming from home? If your ideal client are stay-at-home moms, you're not going to host an event during lunchtime or nap time. So you really need to know all those pieces, and it also helps you in the follow-up. So you asked what would be the right framework to create an event that can produce what we call worth. Was that event worth it? It's knowing your event personality, knowing your ideal client, and speaking to them. We actually just did presented on this at the Jolt conference in Vegas a couple of weeks ago. And one of the examples that we spoke about was an advisor we work with that likes to do events for women and a women's group, and they like to get together, community. And we take their preferences. They like to bring friends. They like to bring adult children. They like to be near the freeway. They like social events. They like wine. And you put all that together, and what happens? They start bringing friends. They start bringing adult children. And it really just adds to the know, like, trust and helps build your relationship. And that makes the events worth it. So you go full circle. You look at the planning, you target the planning to what the ideal client wants. They come, they're happy, the event's worth it. And you're not saying, oh my gosh, I just spent $10,000 on an event and I didn't get anything for it.
That, to me, that's the biggest mistake that most people, not just advisors, but most people make with their events. They look at ROI, and sorry, financial people, it doesn't apply in the event space. Like the cost of the meal, the cost of the rental chairs, the cost of the venue, like those things are fixed. So if you're sitting there going, I've spent X and I'm expecting to make Y, it's a bad equation. It's never equal. So what we talk about is when you think about your event, think about it as a moment, right? It's this opportunity that you're creating. So create your measurables based on the ROM, the return on the moment, instead of the ROI of your return on the investment. Because you could say, you know what, I want to throw an event that's just going to, or not just, that's going to thank my client. And if people feel gratitude, and this is also where follow-up comes into play, right? Because when you're talking to them afterwards and you know what your goals were, you ask, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10, how did you feel you were thanked? Right? Or were you looking to get up and dance or whatever? Again, those things are, those all kind of fall into like, we threw a really great party because we wanted our clients to come and have a great time. Those aren't the same things you're going to measure when you're doing a lunch and learn for COIs or an economic summit. So to simply just look at ROI and go, yes, this one was worth it. No, this wasn't. There's a lot more to it and a lot more value that I think people have a tendency to overlook.
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's so much, first of all, I think you're completely right that anything worthwhile, you have to put time into it. And I think that one of the misconceptions in our industry can be, and especially when you look at, you know, some of the hungry up and coming advisors, those advisors that are like, I have big vision and a big future, and I want results. I want to see that progression in an almost immediacy. That there could be this misconception that an event has to lead to, you know, X number of calls and X number of, you know, transition clients. And a lot of times it's just a way to facilitate relationships and to get that presence known. And again, to target that exact demographic that you're trying to serve. So I think there's so much value in what you shared there. And I want to pivot this a little bit because anytime we have a guest, it's very intentional. Anytime we have a guest, you know, we believe that anybody in the, you know, business world, the entrepreneurial space, that there are so many lessons that we learn over the course of our experience. Some really good lessons and some really frustrating lessons. So in hopes of helping people not reinvent the wheel, what is one of the most difficult lessons that you personally have learned? It could be in business or life in general that has really helped shape, you know, how you pursue your future.
For me, it's asking for help. I'm really bad at it. And over the years, whether it's personal, you know, I have a sick child, I need some help, like I'm just really bad. But what we're finding, and even as we grow our business, what are the things that we're really good at? And how can we ask for help from other people to help move us along? When it, you know, I don't want it to sound like an advertisement, but it really is one of the core tenets of what we do, which is when people ask us, who's your ideal client? It's that person who recognizes that it does take a village. that you're a financial advisor, you're an amazing financial advisor. You don't have to be a marketer. You don't have to be a business operations person. You don't have to be a lawyer. There are people out there who want to help you. Just like we're talking about ideal client and know, like, trust, it's finding those people that you can link arms with to move forward. I think that is one of the biggest lessons I've learned is we have to ask for help. We can't do this alone.
Absolutely. Angela, what about you?
I'm a mom to a special needs son. He's high functioning autistic. And so he's 19 now. And not that our job is ever done as a parent, but I spent years and years and years fighting and advocating for him and didn't just wait for things to happen. And I took the ability to not take no for an answer, to research and really ask for help and go one step further. Well, this isn't working. I have to figure this out and go to the next, opportunity. Is that going to work? And putting all those pieces, as we say when we talk about marketing, a river is made up of many stones, and you have to take one stone to the next stone to the next to get to the other side. And I have taken the ability to, realize we can't all be perfect. Might have made some mistakes, but we're going to get to the other side of that stream and ask for help, but also research and, take a little bit from this book, a little bit from this podcast or webinar and put it all together and make it your own. And that's what we transfer to our advisors is, develop your unique selling point, take a little bit from what you read and what you hear and what is of value to you, and help your business, your personal life, and your client's life get from one stone to the next, We'll all get to the other side.
I love that. And I love both examples that you shared. And I think, hey, as one overachieving woman to two others, about that resiliency and not asking for help. And sometimes help is all that we need. And I can appreciate, Angela, too, when you talk about, that advocating and how you spent your time and how that shaped you. I would bet that our listeners can literally tune in, and while they don't have the same shared experience, I'm sure they can relate at some level of their own about how those different moments and what you both shared play out in their own lives. So that was so valuable. Thank you both for sharing those particular elements. So before we get to our last question, if somebody wants to reach out to you and look at how you might be able to help them craft that really intentional marketing and, maybe create some opportunities in their business, how can they get a hold of you?
The easiest way is through LinkedIn. We do have a business page, Custom Strategic Marketing for Wealth Advisors. We also have our own individual pages, but that's probably a really great place to start. We spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, so they can learn more about who we are and our unique selling points, both professionally and as individuals, and to join that community. That's probably the best way and the easiest way to start.
Excellent. Highly encourage our listeners to engage, and if nothing else, follow what Elyse and Angela are doing, because I think there is massive value to come. The end is never right here, and there's so much more that we'll be seeing from these ladies. So as we round out, one of the notes that we like to leave on is just a great singular piece of advice. So if I said to take all of your knowledge, all of your experience, and you had like 3 sentences to share with the advisor community, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
I would say, if your strategy is, that's the way I've always done it, it's time for a fresh perspective. And we can certainly help you with that. Times have changed. People are changing. You need to meet your people where they are, not where you're comfortable being.
So good. Angela, what about you?
I would say gone are the days of being the advisor that your coaching program, your compliance, everybody wants you to be. You need to stay in compliance, don't get me wrong, but you want to be you. You need to be you. If that means you're wearing golf shirts every day or Hawaiian shirts, that's you. If that means you want to work in have a certain environment for your clients, or have certain types of marketing that really speaks to you, be you, because that's what's going to attract your ideal client. Because we hear many, many times, especially advisors that are mid-career and looking at the second phase of their business, how are they setting up for a succession plan? How are they setting their own personal life up? And we often hear, we just want to work with clients we like. We don't need to work with everybody that fogs a mirror now. So we want to really set the advisors up for success. Be you. And I know it's a very overused word, especially this year. Be authentic. Show us who you are, and everything will fall into place.
I love that. And that is such a great note to end on when our advisors are thinking about their path and their vision for the future. Having yourself incorporated into that and really be that guiding light, I think, is so powerful. So thank you, ladies, for the time that you spent here with me today. I know that our listeners got a ton of value.
Thank you. We can't wait to share more of who we are and how we can help. And we look forward to conversations with you, Brittany, and with your listeners.
Thanks so much for having us. We're always thrilled to share our knowledge and connect with advisors and let them know that marketing does work. Like we said, we flip it on its head. And if it's not working for you, look into that strategic lens, and with a few tweaks, it will.
Awesome. Well, now we will wrap up. So thank you again, ladies. That wraps up today's episode of the Ultimate Advisor podcast. We'll catch you back here next week.